Welcome in, Oklahoma football fans and college football fans. I know that we have more than just Oklahoma fans that like to tune into the show because we've got college football fans that like to hear about all of the teams around the nation. That's how awesome we are here. No, in all seriousness, thank you so much for joining. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Welcome into another edition of Oklahoma Sooners Live. This is our call-in show. And you know what I'm going to do right now, because I didn't do it yet, is let me put this in the chat. There is a phone number for our call-in show. This is the first time that we're trying this, so be patient with us as I'm trying to get this thing going. There is a phone number, so you can call in at any point. When you call in, you should be able to just say your name and where you're from. I forget what the message says on there, but I just tested it all out tonight, so hopefully this all works, and hopefully this is a better option for us to be able to do call-ins in the future. So make sure to, if you want to call in, give us your thoughts, your comments, concerns, questions, whatever you've got for us, call in using that number. The number is 405-353-4535. So hopefully I've got the right number on there too. 405-353-4535. That's the number to call in. So you can pretty much call in at any point tonight. If you're calling in, you'll still be able to hear everything throughout the show through the call, which is pretty awesome. So that's something that should be working just fine. So, and I do believe we're only allowed 5 in the queue at a time right now, just because I'm testing it all out. So make sure to hit that go call, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're going to talk about NIL tonight and how, man, it is a question mark for me, anyways. I feel like it's a question mark. Has NIL ruined college football and I guess college sports as a whole? If you want to throw them all in together, I think a lot of people look at NIL and they're not really happy about the way that things have gone, and I understand it. I totally understand it, and I think that there's a lot with NIL that you look at it from the outside perspective. When they first mentioned this, I think it was back in 2020. I mean, really, they've been talking about it since 2010 at least. It was really a big thing back around 2013, 14, 15. That's why they ended the college football games. And we finally got those back because of NIL. So I guess it's got to be a good thing, right? There's at least a little bit of a good side to NIL and what it brings, because it brought us back. EA Sports brought back the college football game. But in all seriousness, I know that a lot of Sooner fans and really just college fans in general, college football fans, college basketball fans, college baseball fans, you name it. If you are a fan of college sports, you've had your frustrations with with the NIL, and I put this out there on social media the other day, and I got a few responses, and the one that I got the most was, I just asked, what ruined college sports more, or what hurt college sports more? I forget how I worded it exactly, but what hurts college, collegiate sports more? Is it AL or is it the transfer portal? And I think to break that down, there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot. So I think you have to look at NIL and think about the transfer portal and why the transfer portal is the way it is, and then look over at NIL. Personally, I think NIL is hurting, or at least changing the game of college football much more than what the transfer portal is. Because if you think about the transfer portal, the thing about the transfer portal is that players are going into the transfer portal now, not necessarily always because of maybe, hey, my coach left, or not getting enough playing time. You have a starter at a school jump into the transfer portal. For example, Mendoza, drawing a blank on his first name, but Mendoza from Cal. He was a starting quarterback, and really a pretty highly touted, a highly ranked quarterback at that, and one that's regarded very, very highly in the sport of college football. Even at Cal, one of the higher ranked quarterbacks in all of college football at Cal University. Mendoza ends up transferring out. Now you can tell me that there was something else to it. I know that might not be a great example, because He was at Cal. They're not going to win any championships, so maybe he's searching for that. But he ends up transferring to Indiana. Do you really? I have a lot of faith in Indiana. I have a lot of faith in Kurt Signetti and what he's doing there. Do I think they're going to win a championship in a year, in 1 or 2 years? No, I don't think they're going to win a Big Ten championship, and I certainly don't think they're going to win a national championship. So that couldn't have been the biggest reason to leave, right? I think the fact that you want to be on a winning team, that says one thing, and I think that's part of it for Mendoza. But he would be one example to me that I look at and say the NIL is really what draws him out. And again, I guess maybe a bad example there because I can't imagine. I don't know what the numbers are for Mendoza and what he's making at IU, but I can't imagine he's making quite as much at Indiana as he would somewhere else that would have probably tried to pick him up. And I can't recall exactly. I know I feel like Auburn might have tried to pick him up, and I would imagine they'd be able to offer more NIL, but I might be wrong. That's just one example, and again, probably a bad example because I'm just trying to think of a good example of this where I just look and I do think outside of Oklahoma, you look at how many transfers are leaving, and it seems like NIL is the biggest, maybe not the biggest reason for leaving, but the biggest deciding factor on where they choose to play football. And that's NIL isn't even just in the transfer portal. It's also now in recruiting where you look at Ojo that just signed, Felix Ojo that just signed with which sounds weird to say signed with, but he just went down to Texas Tech and committed there. And the numbers that you see from his NIL, I mean, that has to play a part of it, especially when you're an 18-year-old kid, 17, 18-year-old kid that's choosing where to go next. And those kinds of numbers are being thrown at you. Of course, that's going to play a factor into where you go. And so, I look at it personally, and I think NIL, I don't know that NIL itself has hurt college football or collegiate sports as much. I think it's just the way that it was all thrown out there with no revisions, with no supervision, with no guidelines on how it can be used, no rules on it just seems like it was thrown out there. Hey, you can now use NIL, you can now pay players. It can't be directly from the school. Was the original setup for NIL. And I believe this was 2021 that NIL really started. And so then you've got just kind of this NIL thrown out there where players can now start making money as collegiate athletes because of their name, image, and likeness. Now, back it up to when this first all came out. The first thing I thought was NIL is a terrible thing. Why would they need to be paid at all? They're getting a college degree out of this. That as long as they stay with school and finish out their classes and go through and graduate, they're going to get a college degree out of this. They're getting a scholarship to go and play football or basketball, whatever the sport is. But then, I thought about it more and understood what NIL was going to come about to be. And I said, actually, I like the idea of NIL because, yeah, they are getting a degree and they're getting a scholarship for free, or not really for free, but to participate in a revenue sport. So the school is making money, and it's making money off of their name, image, and likeness. And so in some regard, I can understand that from a school's perspective, to have to maybe pay the players. But the big thing for me when I first heard about NIL and was first kind of thinking about how NIL would go, I thought, well, yeah, I mean, a player getting paid, $50 per autograph to sit down, and people can pay to get into an event, and the school makes some money off of it. Then the college athlete also gets paid some money off of it. And so, all of these people come in and they get an autograph, and he's making money off that. Or if the school is selling a jersey and it's got that player's name on it. For example, let's back it up to Baker Mayfield is sitting there and he's got All of these fans want a Baker Mayfield jersey with his name on the back. It's his number, his name on the back. Obviously, I guess the number doesn't really mean too much, but it says his name on the back. That number and that name is the reason why that's being sold is because of his name, because of his image, because of his likeness. It's because of what he put on the field. So I like that aspect, and I support NIL, and I really do think that because of if you think about how much these players are getting, or sorry, not these players, but these schools are getting paid for the players that come in and commit 4 years of their uh, hold off. I'm saying 4 years of their life because that's what they're supposed to sign up for. They're going through 4 years of college, right? But they are supposed to be going through, 3 or 4 years of giving something to this school that they're going and signing with, and that school uses their name, their image, their likeness to promote their games. They're getting money for these games being played through TV deals, through the concessions and ticket sales. The schools are making so much money just from these players committing and coming in to play a sport for them. So absolutely, I think players should be paid. And I don't know anyone that really totally disagrees with NIL. I know there's a few old school people that just think like I mentioned. I think the initial thought was, well, no, they're getting a scholarship, and then I thought further, and I think people that think further through it, and okay, it makes sense. But again, the problem isn't NIL. It's that it was all thrown out there with no supervision, with no guidelines, with no rules. And it just became a big mess. And now there's finally some rules and some guidelines being placed out there. Here recently, there was one. Let me see if I can pull this up so I can share this on the screen. I think this would be good to kind of go through together so we can kind of get this. I'll pull this up and we can present it. Let's see here. Share this screen, and we're going to go to that tab real quick. I've got other tabs. I don't want you guys to see those tabs. Those are my notes. But anyways, so this is something. Let me see if I can zoom in on this, make this a little bit bigger. No, it's not letting me. Let me try it this way. There we go. All right. So this was put out there by Ross Dellinger, and a really good post too, because he went through so many different ways, so many different things about this act, this score act that's being placed. And he posted this. So I'll kind of read a little bit of his, and then I'm going to go to my notes because I've got it kind of broken down a little bit differently. But ultimately, he says members of the U.S. House are planning as soon as Thursday, and it was today, Thursday, that this was introduced. It's an amended College Sports Bill Score Act, sources tell Yahoo Sports. Though opposed by many Democrats, the act is on track to progress further than any all-encompassing athlete compensation legislation. Excuse me as I try to read today. I don't know why my eyes are not working very well right now. I feel like that always happens whenever I'm trying to read screens, especially whenever I'm live at the most. Anyways, Ross goes on and he breaks down a lot of this stuff, and I'll go through here and show. So, though many hurdles remain in its passage through the House, the act's biggest hurdle lies in the divided U.S. Senate at one of the more divisive times in American history. Not kidding there. And where filibuster rules require the support of 60 senators, the Senate has 53 Republicans. And I don't really understand how this is a divisive Republican and Democrat thing. I try to stay out of politics. Okay, so so for those who are about to comment in the live chat, we'll just keep it political free, politics free. But I don't understand. I don't understand the divisiveness in this country. I understand why. I understand the points of the division. This right here, this act, I don't understand how, other than just simply being divisive, because I think we have too much division where it's just you're a Republican, therefore I will disagree with everything you say, and you are a Democrat, therefore I will disagree with everything you say. That's the only reason why this makes any sense to me, why there would be some sort of division. Yeah, so I mean, the whole Republican Democrat thing should not matter on an issue like this. I do think it's ridiculous how we put these bills out there, that we have so many things in one bill that you can't just it should be broken down, each individual item on each bill. It shouldn't be a bill with 54 things being passed. But anyways, again, I'm not trying to get too far into politics. I'm just saying that this is one of those things in the political realm that bleeds into sports. I don't understand how it's divisive down to that point. Anyways, he goes on. This is one that I think was really big. So Ross says, in perhaps one of the more crucial concepts, the act places parameters and requirements around agents, most notably limiting agent compensation to 5% of the total athlete deal. Now, don't read the next part because this part is actually maybe a little wrong, a little bit. But this is one part that I think is really good about the bill. And I'm going to go into it and dive a little deeper into this score in just a second. But first, to bring this up. So it's a part of it that I think is very good. This is an amazing part of this bill is that it's going to limit agent compensation. And I don't like the word agent. I'd say maybe representative or um, abuser of young men and women. I don't know what. Not all of them are. Some of them are just close friends and family or close coaches that guide them. But I think the people that are taking, and this is the part, taking 10 to 20% of what they're making. That's incredible. When you're talking millions of dollars at a time and they're taking up to 20%. Now, I was told, and actually I heard Parker Thune talking about this with Brandon. No, it wasn't Brandon. It was Jesse Crittenden last night. And I tuned in while I was driving, was listening to them talk about this. And Parker was saying that's a generous number. 10 to 20% is a generous number. That there's actually agents, if you want to call them that, these people that are taking advantage of these young athletes, they are taking more than 10 to 20% at times. So that's just incredible. So to limit that to just 5% of the total athlete deal, I think that is a big part. That's big. So hopefully that part at least. This is where I feel like, why can't we just break this down? Anyways, I'm gonna take this off the screen, and we can kind of go back. Oop, don't know why it's got my image big there, but anyways, yeah. Again, I don't understand the divisive issue of that. And as far as just like Republican Democrat divisiveness, is that the right word? That's a word tonight. Anyways, apologies, guys. It's been a long week. Okay, my brain might not be working 100%. But all right, I'm going to get into this a little bit deeper because I tried to read as much of it and dive a little deeper into it, make a lot of notes. I made too many notes. And so I'm going to try to skim through my notes. So bear with me here. But this SCORE Act, which is Student Compensation and Opportunity Through Rights and Endorsements Act, it's supposed to be a bipartisan bill. But again, bipartisan, but it's still divisive somehow. That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, it was introduced, and so it's introduced by the House Energy and Commerce, Education and Workforce, and Judiciary Committees. So it aims to establish a national framework or name, image, and likeness in college sports, addressing the current patchwork and laws and legal uncertainties. So basically, the idea of this is to try to implement more of a guideline for NIL. The idea behind this, it's a good idea, and it should have been put into effect before NIL was dropped, before it was released, before it was thrown out there into the world. The fact that we're doing this after the fact, it's just too late. You've already gone down this path of allowing kids to get paid just crazy amounts, and nothing was really set in stone. So some of these kids that have been paid all these thousands upon thousands, maybe millions of dollars, some of them may go bankrupt and have a very hard financial life because of just the lack of supervision in all of this. That's what we're playing with here. You tell me that you're going to give a 17, 18 between so by the time they get into college, an 18 to 24-year-old, yes, sometimes 24, you're going to give them millions of dollars and expect them to just manage it properly on their own? I don't think so. Unless their parents were very good with them, which some of them, that's the case. Their parents helped out. They had advisors that were very good. Some of the schools did a very good job of making sure that they were um, spending their money right, or at least helping them understand how to spend their money, where to put it, all of this kind of stuff. But anyways, and then on top of that, they're getting taken advantage of by some of these quote unquote agents. So just very interesting when we break it all down that we're finally putting something into place, and it's been slowly coming out. There was the House versus settlement, the House versus NCAA settlement that we talked about a little while ago, where now colleges can pay students directly from the college. So, anyways, the purpose of this SCORE Act, it kind of creates a standardized federal framework or for NIL. It kind of ensures that the student athletes can earn compensation from the NIL, while also putting guidelines into place to try to make sure that um, there are some laws to it that in the entirety of this. It's not that there aren't laws already, but it's going to start to try. You're going to see a lot of patchwork going forward, which is what we've seen already this past 3 or 4 months here. It seems like there's been a lot of patchwork. So even the House first NCAA settlement, just a couple of days later, had an appeal against it because they didn't mention anything about Title IX. Hello, you might want to throw something in there to make sure that everybody's covered, because even if even if that's not going to happen, you need to make sure that the ladies that are playing in those college sports are also covered under everything with when it comes to NIL. Make sure that they're not being treated unfairly. How do you just completely miss that? I don't know, but I do think that you're going to see a lot more patchwork, and this is one of them. This SCORE Act, and very hard to understand. I should have had Chad jump on with me tonight, Chad Smith. I should have had him jump on with me because he's a lawyer, so he's going to understand all this legal talk much more than I did, and that's why I have so many notes trying to understand everything that goes into this SCORE Act. But it does break down. It kind of gives provisions on NIL rights. It codifies the right of student athletes to enter NIL deals and to retain agents without penalties from the NCAA or schools. So basically, just making sure that this is all kind of part of it that we should have already known about NIL, is that they can make money, and the NCAA can't penalize the kid for making money through these outside deals. And it also gives some support for the athletes. So this is one thing that I think is new from my understanding. It mandates the schools to provide career and academic and health support, including post-graduation health care and degree completion assistance. So it's going to force the schools to basically kind of treat them a little bit like an employee, in the sense that you can't just let them go out into the world and not offer them something after. And so they're going to have to provide assistance afterwards. I don't know exactly what all that goes into, but I do know that it's going to. I think this is a good thing, because you don't have these kids graduating school and going on whatever path they end up going down, and not having any kind of assistance afterwards. So it is going to kind of force those schools to provide some sort of assistance to make sure that they're good afterwards, because that way they're not going out here with all of this money in their pockets and just go blowing it, and they don't have health care. They don't have a career lined up in the future. So if they don't make it to the NFL or to the NBA, wherever they're going, then they have to have some sort of assistance, which I think that's a good thing. I think the support for the athletes, making sure that they're understanding what this NIL gives them and what it's going to lead to. There's also legal protections. Kind of gives liability protection to the universities and the conferences, shielding them from litigation related to NIL activities. So it's kind of protecting the schools. Again, another good thing that I see coming from this, and more patchwork that I think is a really good thing for NIL. And it's also a state law preemption, which overrides varying state NIL laws to create uniformity across the entire United States. So the state of Oklahoma can't put something out for NIL that would then change it for the entire nation, so that somebody over in California or somebody in Ohio isn't affected by what Oklahoma decides to put. So Oklahoma can make certain laws on NIL, and I don't know what those laws would be. I don't know of a good example of that, but they can't put some sort of law on NIL that would. So first of all, if they were to put a law, it would have to be something that would not contradict maybe something that would be put in effect from something like this from the United States government. And it also can't affect someone in Nebraska, or it can't affect somebody in West Virginia or Ohio or Florida. It can only pertain to the collegiate athletes in the state of Oklahoma. Pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I had to explain it as much as I did. It also gives transfer restrictions. This is one of those things I'm sure would probably be a little bit divisive, but it introduces a one-time transfer rule limiting athletes to ability to transfer multiple times. Now, you would have to put not amendments, you'd have to put exceptions to this rule. I do think that that's something that I would imagine gets brought up if it's not already in there, because I don't see that in there from what I was reading. So this is something that, man, I love this. Bring a little bit more uniformity to the sport. I mean, I like a lot about this, and I think there's a lot of positives from this. Um, the negatives are really. We'll get into some of the negatives that I could see. I don't think it's negatives from the fans' perspective, hardly at all in any of this. I think a lot of this is really good stuff from the fans' perspective. So transfer restrictions, that's one that fans are going to love. And guys, please feel free to call in. Again, that number is 405-353-4535. And I will put that up on the screen as well so you guys can see it. Call in using that number. It'll put you into a queue. And as soon as I can, I will get to you guys. We can talk about this NIL, all of this SCORE Act and all of that. So call in. Once I see anybody call in, I will try to get to your call as soon as we can. But anyways, I think transfer restrictions is one of those things that people would like. People would like to see some transfer restrictions. Another thing is financial restrictions. Prohibits high earning colleges from using student fees to fund athletic programs and bars prohibited compensation. This is one of those that I didn't fully understand, so I'm not going to pretend like I did, but that was as simple as I could make it. Prohibiting high earning colleges from using student fees to fund athletic programs. So what I think that this what I understand this to be, and I might be wrong, is that there couldn't be specific student fees that would be just to the normal student that they would have to pay into something that they'd be forced to pay into that would then go to it. Now, it doesn't mean that the college can't take its normal fees that it's getting from its students to put in, because colleges do that. They would take their normal fees for random classes or whatever, and they might use that towards a portion of that towards student athletes, towards the athletic programs. So it's not saying that, but it's saying that they couldn't force an extra tax on students, is what I understand that to be. So you can't force them to fund the program, and specifically into NIL, which that's how I understand that. And it really is kind of undefined exactly what that means. So and I'm sure that they would have to break that down a little bit deeper and really get into that. Anyways, one other thing was the agent regulation. That was one that I brought up. Really regulates the agents, making sure that there's a lot more transparency, and also protects the athletes from exploitation, from being abused, from being they don't understand what they're getting into, and they think that this is just how it goes. And it's not just student athletes. If you ever listen to some younger, newer musicians, for example, they get into the business and they get reached out to by by some big I don't know, some kind of big record. I don't know why I was drawing a blank. So they're trying to sign with this big record deal, and it's not going through. And they want to sign with them, and they're being told they have to sign this and sign that, and you have to understand that this much is going to be taken away, and this much is how much you're going to have to pay us. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling there, but anyways, It happens all over the place, and I think that's happening. So it's going to restrict them from only being able to the agents to only be able to take 5%, which is a really good thing. So, anyways, moving on. The last thing is the anti-employment clause. So it ensures athletes are not classified as employees, preventing unionization or direct payment from schools. Which that is, I believe that's in the House for settlement. So I might not be understanding that one completely, but and maybe that's something in there too that it refers back to it. Like I said, I was trying to read through a lot of this. I don't understand all the legality of it, but I do know that this is something that, from what I took, I think there's a lot of good that comes from it. So I think the uniformity, I think the clarity of NIL, there's some good things that come from it in that regard. I also like the fact that it supports these players. It supports them not just while they're in school and while they're going to these colleges, but it also supports them after. And it kind of goes from there. And then I also think that there's parts of it that I think will try to preserve the collegiate sports that we love, and that's the biggest thing, right? So that's really big. From the athlete's perspective, it might be bad because it's restricting their freedom. It's restricting if the transfer rule were to get into effect, then they're not able to transfer as often as they would like. I don't know. Maybe they're not able to make as much money as they would have with no restrictions. So I think there's a lot that comes from that. And I suppose there might be some extra pressure with all of this, making sure that they're staying within the boundaries, within the rules. So that's definitely a part of it as well. But anyways, that's pretty much all I've got there on that. Anyway, like I said, I think there are good things about NIL. I think players should be given some sort of compensation for their name, image, and likeness. I think that's necessary. I think you're crazy if you don't want them to do that. But anyways, I'm going to jump over to the live chat real quick, and then we will get to calls. I see we got one caller in the queue, and he even says, "FYI, I'm on the line." I see that, Burks. It's right in front of me, and it did pop up a little later, like right after you put that in the chat too. So I appreciate it. You guys go ahead and feel free to call in, and I will get to those calls here in just a second. So the way it works, it's going to have you sit in kind of a queue. And when you're in that queue, you should be able to hear everything. Hopefully, you can hear everything. I guess, Burks, you can probably comment down below if you can hear everything. But anyways, you should be able to hear the show still, listen to it. And then once I'm able to get to you, it'll beep. And then I'll make sure that we can hear each other, and we'll go from there. Anyways, get into the chat. Modern Day Caveman, what's up? He says, the starts with the transfer portal. If the NCAA limited players to one transfer during a collegiate career, that would stop all the NIL money chasing of players jumping from team to team. You're probably right, but if they were to fix NIL and make it to where teams can't just outbid teams, would that also help? That's kind of where I'm at. I don't mind the transfer portal if it's kept at a reasonable pace. Now, when you have players transferring multiple times, I do think that there should be a limit. I say one transfer in your 4 years of college, unless So I think your coach, whether it be offensive coordinator, maybe the quarterback's coach, your position coach, or your head coach. If it's a coach that's directly affecting you, I think if they leave, that should be an exception, because you are committing to the college, you're playing for that school, but you're also playing for that coach. And specifically, when you commit, you're committing to that coach. So that's the biggest thing there. So that's one thing. But I don't disagree with you on that, though. I do think that the transfer portal makes it worse because you have no loyalty, and so maybe me personally, I think a lot of that loyalty goes out the window because of NIL, and they're not committing to the schools that they normally would because of NIL in the first place. So I think that's a big part of it. And then they transfer out maybe because of NIL. I think most of the time that's not why they transfer, but then to commit to the next school, it becomes an NIL bidding war. That's kind of where I stand. So I stand on the side that I think NIL hurts more than the transfer portal, but I do agree. I think we should have some sort of limitation. And so, if I'm understanding this SCORE Act properly, then I believe that there should be some sort of limitation to how many times you're able to transfer, because I've brought that up in the past. Casey Thompson's one that I know pretty closely, just because we saw him at Texas. My family, my dad's side of the family, they're all Nebraska fans. So he went to Nebraska, and so I followed him there with them. Then he transferred to FAU. Then from FAU up to Oklahoma, transferring. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 times, and there's others too. I think Zach Calzada. I think I've got that name right. He's one of them, if I remember correctly. Hopefully, I'm not dropping the wrong name. But yeah, there's several players that have transferred several times. So, anyways, going on to Stubby, he says, "I'm concerned, guys. Oklahoma is one of the richest histories in all college football, but we don't have the ability to outspend Texas or other places. College football is now a professional football." Yeah, I'm concerned too. And I think that's why there should have been regulations. There should have been some sort of law put into place. And specifically, I think the NCAA dropped the ball some, but it was also outside of the NCAA's hands in some regard. And so, yeah, I think I don't like that it's going to government, because I'm not a fan of anything about the government. Really, it seems like just everything. It's hard to trust them. Hard to trust them. So, anyways, yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm concerned too, and some of Oklahoma not being able to outpay players is just that they're unwilling to not outpay players, but outpay other schools. I think some of the reason for that is just that they're unwilling to outpay the other schools. I don't think that there's as much of an issue with being able to, but I think that you look at it, and is it worth it to outpay them? Is it worth it for me to pay this much for this player? And I think they try to evaluate that, and they just don't find that to be the case. They don't pay as much as other schools because they choose not to. And you can disagree with that, and you can hate that all you want, and I don't disagree with you. Anyways, we're gonna move on. We got Bishop. He says, "All receipts, fam, are coming due. Period. Boomer. Sooner." Right back to you, Bishop. Thanks for tuning in. And again, I'm going to get to calls. So if you will, that call is down in the description below. That number is in the description below. It's also in the live chat. That number is 405-353-4535 if you want to call in. I'm only seeing one in the chat and in the queue right now, and we're going to get to that ASAP. I'm going to get to a couple more that I know I saw in here before we get to the call. Sooner Cowboys, what's up, man? He says, "Yeah, high school recruiting isn't looking good right now. Supposedly OU was in the red when Nagy came in, which is why Joe Castiglione is retiring and trying to get OU back within the budget." I'm not sure where you're hearing that, because I don't think that's true. I mean, they might have been in the red in terms of NIL. That's possible. That's not why Joe Castiglione is retiring. He's retiring because he's coming up on 30 years. I mean, he's almost 30 years doing this, and he wants to step away for his family. That's the reason he gave, and I totally understand that. He has been an athletic director the entire time that he's been married to his wife, and his entire time of being a father, he's been an athletic director. And if you understand how much time that takes away from you, and I don't think any of us can until you've been in that situation, that totally makes sense. So I think that I think there's many other reasons why he's retiring, but that's not one of them. But and then on top of that, Joe Castiglione, he actually brought Oklahoma out of debt. He brought them from a negative to where they are booming through the roof, and in terms of the athletic department specifically. Now, he spent a lot of money on different renovations and things like that, but I think those are things that are pretty necessary. And I think some fans are still hoping to be able to get more. But anyways, I'm going to get to our caller that I do see on the line. It looks like Burks. And so let me pull him in real quick. Burks, can you hear me?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. I just I'm a pretty big Mark Rogers. Everyone knows who I am actually, except this Oklahoma. I think this Oklahoma channel is new. So, is it new?
I mean, I'm new to the channel, and it's kind of new
Oh,
doing it the
gotcha.
way that we're doing it. Yeah, because Mark Rogers, so he actually used to post a lot of his clips that were related to Oklahoma over to the channel. So the channel's not new, but our fan base
Hmm.
and all that, it's pretty new. So yeah, but no, I appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, no, we have a big game week 2. Are you
Yeah.
excited for that game? Or yeah, no, I'm pumping up, but yeah, no, I'm just curious about how's your. So I don't know much about like I know that you guys are a blue blood program in the
Mhm.
South, and you guys are a better program of all time than Texas, in my opinion, as well.
Well, we
And
love to hear that.
I'm just yeah, I'm just wondering like how's your like receiving like core like did like because I know one of your guys, Andrel Anthony, he used to be in
Mhm.
Michigan. I think he transferred out, and you guys do have some other receivers too. Like I don't really know much about your receivers, but how you like graded on a scale of like on a letter grade at least,
Yeah, I would say
you
right
know.
now, Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma has been really good in the past. I would say that they've been in the A range, A minus to A plus range in the past. But I'd say
Yeah.
right now they're sitting. I would probably grade them at a B. And if you look
Hmm.
at last season, and I think Michigan can probably, as a Michigan fan, you can probably empathize with this quite a bit, is that it seems like the injuries were just the worst thing to happen to Oklahoma last season, and where they had several five starters, five potential starters, or they were going to be starters. It just in the wide receiver room alone last season. Now this season you have some of that kind of creeping up, and I'll probably get to some of the injuries here in a little bit. But I know one that a lot of people are worried about is Jaden Gibson, and he's one that's hoping to be back. And then I'm trying to think Giovanni Gibson. So it's actually two Jay Gibsons that's going to be on Oklahoma. Ultimately, I think if everyone was healthy, and that's what they're hoping for, and that's what they're aiming for, it seems like everything's on the right track to be there. I'd probably give it Oklahoma B plus. They've got solid guys. And, they've got Deion Burks. I don't know if you remember him from Purdue. He's over with Oklahoma right
Yeah.
now.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
he's definitely the biggest one. Isaiah Satania, he came from Arkansas, so he transferred over. And so, and then they've got other guys that I think will fill in. Some guys that were younger last season that got some playing time because of those injuries above them. So, yeah, I'd say right now I'd give Oklahoma's wide receiver room a B plus, and a lot of that just because of the uncertainty and the injuries.
Gotcha. And then how is John Mateer? Because I don't know much about him. Like I knew he was
Mhm.
a stud at whatever school he went to, but how is the stuff you're hearing? How is he like performing? Is he like looking good? Is he like battling it out with somebody? Did he win the job? How is his performance like in the off season?
Yeah, I would say he's technically battling it out with Michael Hawkins Jr. And I think you have to be
Hmm.
fair in saying that. Although it's really his job for the taking. It's he would have to basically do something terrible to lose the starting position because he was at Washington State, performed outstanding there, and this would be his third season now under Ben Arbuckle's system because Ben Arbuckle also came from Washington State, the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma. So it's not like he's transferring into a new system. It is his system, and he understands it. And what I've heard from different insiders, I'm not an insider. I always tell people I'm not an insider, but I know the insiders, so I try to get as much inside scoop as I can. And what I've heard is that for one, the aura that he brings to the table is one that they absolutely love to see. He's one of those guys that kind of gives you that Baker Mayfield aura feel, and he's also kind of got the biggest thing with him that they're noticing is how beautiful his passing is on the run. He's able to kind of evade out, and he's athletic too. And so he's pretty fast and being able to get out of the pocket, throwing on the run. And so everything I've heard is a huge upside. And then on top of his ability, I think everybody is pretty confident in what he's able to do on the field. But the biggest thing, again, for a transfer quarterback is that because this is his system that he's transferring with Ben Arbuckle and his quarterbacks coach, Coach K, that came with him from Washington State as well, is that they're all implementing this new system and teaching everybody around him, but he's also being part of that peer on peer coaching. And so that's something that I think I'm really excited about, and I'm happy to hear that. That not only is he confident enough in this system to be able to move along with it, and he already knows it to be able to go in, but he's also teaching that to the guys around him. So, yeah, I think there's a lot with John Mateer that Oklahoma fans, as a whole, are very excited about.
Yeah, man, this game, Michigan Oklahoma, is it's going to be a really close game, and it's such a like game where it's like, man, who's going to win? That's what I
Yeah.
feel because like I'm seeing prediction scores on ESPN and stuff. Some say Oklahoma, some say Michigan, some say because you need to understand with Michigan, they are riding momentum. After how they finished at the end and a lot of defense. I know a lot of the D line has won to the NFL draft, but a lot of the backups, man, they actually have a lot of depth even then because a lot of the backups from our last year team, they made some plays and they're really confident. And some of them look like one of them is projected could be a first rounder, Rayshon Benny. And
Mhm.
that's coming to my final last question. How is the O line like for Oklahoma? Are you guys like a top 10 ranked O line? Are you like preseason or how is that like?
Yeah, preseason, I definitely wouldn't put them top 10, probably not even top
Hmm.
25. I'd say
Wow.
I'd say top 50 is what you should expect. Just because, so if you go back, again, being a Michigan fan, you can empathize with this a lot. Last season, Oklahoma had
Yeah.
probably really one of the worst. They allowed, I believe, the most sacks. Might have been just under. It was 50 sacks last season, which is an astronomical amount for any team. Dead last in FBS for sacks allowed. So it was a horrible offensive line, and a lot of that played into injuries. And some of that was that you had guys that you didn't have a single guy that returned from the season before. So last season you had an offensive line that Oklahoma fans look at last season and think that that's probably the biggest improvement that needs to be made, because obviously, especially in the Big Ten or the SEC, really on all of college football, it's one in the trenches, just more so in those two conferences where it's really one in the trenches. But this season, what we're seeing, at least from the spring practices and from spring ball, what you're seeing is a competitive nature with this offensive line, with guys that, because of because of the injuries, those younger guys got some meaningful playing time, which is a good thing when you lead into this season. And so, that's a big thing that I think you're seeing now, where now they're competitive with an outstanding defensive line. Oklahoma's defensive line is, I think, top 10 for sure. Maybe even top 5. That defensive line is really good. And in spring ball, they were competitive with that extremely good defensive line, which is not what you saw last spring, even with healthy guys in the spring, and because those injuries didn't really come till summer and fall. So, I think I'm not willing to put them, even top 25, just because we don't know. But I have a feeling like once we see Oklahoma on the field, you'll start to see an offensive line that will work its way into that top 25, and who knows, maybe top 10. Bill Bedenbaugh is one of the highest regarded offensive line coaches in all of the nation. So if he were to leave Oklahoma today, his phone would be blowing up. So so you have to put some faith in Bill Bedenbaugh and what he's able to do. But and then of course a lot of those offensive line injury issues seem like they've gone away, and they've been very careful this offseason, and going into the new season too. So yeah, I think the offensive line should be good. It's just that there's a lot of question marks right now.
Yeah, same with us as well. And it's crazy because like I like Oklahoma. This is gonna be even a really tough. This is like I said. I predict this is gonna be a really low scoring game, under like 20 points. I feel. I have Michigan right now at 23-21, but my decision could actually change with Oklahoma winning the game. Right now I have Michigan just because I really like our running play, our defense, our running game is going to be really great. Our receivers, man, is an issue. That's like I
Mhm.
give that an F right now. I went to the spring game, man, and these receivers could not catch the damn ball. Like Underwood could throw. He made such good throws, some of them, and then some of them he did make some mistakes. But the reason he made a pick in the spring game was the receiver was running a different wrong route. I was
Yeah.
there, and it's crazy. So and then also Underwood playing at Oklahoma Stadium. Like as a true freshman. That's why this game I feel can go either way, I feel it's going to be battle of the trenches. That's what I'm
Oh
starting to
yeah,
feel like.
yeah. I
You know,
totally, I
and
totally
and, and
agree.
yeah, no, it's crazy. In all the score predictions, it's like none of them are like Michigan's killing Oklahoma or Oklahoma's killing Michigan. It's like more like a 2-3 point, game this is going to be. And I do see more predictions of Oklahoma winning, but not by that much. I do see many predictions of Michigan beating Oklahoma. It's going to be a fun game, and
Oh yeah.
it's going to be a stressful game. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a
Super
blast.
stressful.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think it should be lower scoring. I like your 21-23 pick. I think it's
yeah,
right in that range, and
and it,
I could see that swinging either way. Just because if you think of
yeah,
Oklahoma and Michigan and look at what they battled through last season, again, I think that they're
yeah,
identical. With the issues that they had with injuries,
yeah,
offensive line, quarterback play was questionable. The wide receiver play was questionable again because of injury. But then you go on the defensive side of the ball, and you felt pretty confident about that defense. And both teams, correct me if I'm wrong, Michigan had 6 wins last season as well.
they had what?
Did they have 6 wins in the regular season?
No, they had 7.
Yeah, that's right. Ohio State was the 7th. I can't say that too loud because my
Yeah.
wife might hear me. She's an Ohio State a gal. She graduated from there. But yeah,
Really?
yeah. So
Oh God. All right.
so for
Uh,
Michigan, their 7 games. Would you agree that it was basically the defense that really won those games without much help from the offense?
yeah, it was basically the defense, man.
Yeah,
Our offense, you know how awful our offense was. It was god awful.
yeah. I mean,
You know.
that was basically where Oklahoma was. I mean, Oklahoma, Michigan, and Iowa, all 3 of those you could kind of bundle in the
Oh my
same group.
God.
If you were to look at their offensive compared to defensive stats and jumble them around and not tell people which one was which, they'd have a hard time deciding between those 3 schools. So yeah, I think it's an
Yeah.
interesting one. I'm excited. I'll be down there in Norman this year, and hopefully next
Oh,
year
nice.
I can make it to the big house next season whenever we play Michigan
Oh, cool.
up in
Do you live like in? Do you live in the Midwest
yeah,
or?
yeah, live in the Midwest, and so it's a little bit of a drive for me,
Okay.
not too far of a drive for me to get to Norman, but it'll definitely be a long
Okay.
drive to get to Michigan.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful because I live in like Chicago, so like Michigan is not that far. Ann Arbor, it's only like 3 hours and like 40-minute drive. I usually take the train, and I'm a Packers fan as well, so 3 hours there.
Yeah,
And yeah, all my teams are like really close, so that's what I love about Chicago. And yeah, it's cool. It's like the Big Ten melting pot, really. So
yeah,
yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, no, it's fun talking to you, man. I appreciate the call, the talk, and I do really like how your takes are really similar to mine, the score and being close. Because I was talking to a Michigan fan. He thought like they're gonna kill Oklahoma because I'm like, dude, like this is like it's delusional, man. Because they're not. That's the issue. It's gonna be like both. It's gonna be a great game, and both fan bases are gonna be excited, but they're also gonna be shitting their pants,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
So
I try to be
yeah,
as realistic with my own team as I can, but of course
yeah,
we're all a fan of
yeah.
somebody.
Same, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm like the most realistic, and that's the reason why my fan base hates me a lot is because I'm too like I try to be too realistic. I'm
Yeah,
not a type of guy who's gonna be like, oh yeah, we're gonna go undefeated, or oh we like I once said I wouldn't be surprised we lose 4 games this year, and then they're like, yeah, you're like the worst fan ever. I'm like, no, I'm just not surprised because last year I had them going to the playoffs, and look what happened.
yeah,
So and then new OC, new QB, receivers, man, like we got only a couple in the transfer. We're only one in the transfer portal, or 2. One is actually looking good, but the other one is just not looking that great. And
well, and
there's a
to
lot of news changes.
yeah,
Yeah,
to your point too, Oklahoma and Michigan are very similar this year too, where you've got a lot of new
yeah,
changes that you're very optimistic about, but you have a hard time just buying into it because you know what happened last season. Both Oklahoma and Michigan are same boat. It's like, hey, our defense isn't really the question, right? Neither is Michigan's, and
yeah,
but then you
yeah.
look forward and you're like, but the offense, I feel like it should be better. It can't be worse. But how much better, and how much is it going to complement the defense? That's the big thing.
I'm glad you guys got rid of Alex Grinch. Oh my God,
Yeah,
Grinch
I
was
did not
just
like him.
terrible.
I
Oh my
I
God, dude, he
tried
was
tried
so
so hard to
bad.
like him. I tried to, but it didn't work out. And
Uh,
then he went with Lincoln Riley over to USC, so didn't work out for
Can
him
I
there
tell you a
either.
funny story? Let me tell you one more funny story. But I had a player in high school football. I played with him. His name is Perry on Winfrey. Does that ring the bell for you?
Yeah, yeah, I loved Perry on.
Yeah, no, so he was a D line, and
Hmm.
I went to high school with him, man, and yeah, he was pretty funny. He did got into trouble all the time, but then he went, he went to JUCO, he grind, and then went to college, and
Yeah.
he said something so funny. He was like the Grinch stole Christmas or something like that, because it's true, like his system really made the Oklahoma defense look bad, and I kind of feel like he could have got drafted higher in the NFL if it wasn't for Alex Grinch's like defense or something like that. I
Well,
don't know, but like he was just terrible, man. Alex
do you know
Grinch.
the name Kenneth Murray?
Oh
He
yeah, I heard the name
plays. I'm
before.
trying to think
Yeah,
of where he plays right now. I know he played for the Titans. I know
mhm.
he got traded away from there, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
yeah,
another great talent
yeah,
under Grinch. There's several of them that we could probably go down a list and say, man, think about
yeah.
Obo Okoronkwo and how much better off he would have been in the NFL if it wasn't for playing under those defenses. And yeah, it's just definitely happy to have him gone. And if we could, if Brent Venables didn't work out as a head coach, Oklahoma would absolutely pay him the bag to keep him around as a defensive coordinator.
Oh, 100%, man. Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyways,
That's all I got, man. Yeah,
all
that's
right,
all I
Brooks,
got,
I
man.
appreciate you so much for calling in, man. Thanks for being the first
Yeah.
one on our new
Take care.
system too.
Yeah, of course,
All right,
of course.
thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Take care. Yeah, bye.
All right, again, I'm going to keep that call number up on the screen if you want to call in. I'll keep that queue open for a little while longer, testing it out. Hopefully, everybody heard that clearly. Give me a thumbs up in the chat too if you could hear, as long as you could hear everything. Anyways, please feel free to call in. I'm going to jump over. I guess I'll jump back to the live chat real quick. Let's see where I left off here. Bishop's in the chat. He says, keep spitting fire. Big salute, fan. Big salute back to you, Bishop. He's one of the most regular viewers. I'd say like top 5 regular viewers. Top 5 being the 5 people that are always in here. So I appreciate you guys so much. And you know what? There's one more thing I want to mention too. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Let me pull it up real quick. I can pull it up pretty fast. It shouldn't take too long. And you know what? I figured out. So the other night, if you guys were tuned in, had a little bit of technical issues. Ended up figuring that out. I think I've got it all solved. So hopefully it's all coming through clear tonight, crystal clear. So we are at 5,983 subscribers. Now, whenever I first started on this channel, we were, I think, either maybe 5,800, right around that range. I think we were just under 5,800. Let's get that to 6,000 before kickoff. All right. So kickoff is what, August 30th? Is that right? Let's get that up. 6,000 before kickoff. That's our goal. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button really quick for me. That helps this channel more than you guys know. And again, calling in also helps because it gives us some fun conversations. I love that too. I appreciate Birch for calling in. First caller under the new system too. So hopefully this system holds up and I'll keep on using this. Sooner Cowboys says need to get 100,000 seat stadium to get more money in the stands. Yeah, it takes money to earn money, right? And I think that's part of why Joe Castiglione, when the way that he set up his retirement, he's not retiring effective immediately. He's pushing that off. He's saying, "Hey, I'm retiring, so let me throw that out there to you guys." And whenever that time comes, he said there's a few things that he wants to get done. I think that's one of them is a stadium project that he's trying to finish before he leaves. So that's one big thing. Let's see here. Burks also called in, also in the chat. He says Texas has more NIL than you guys. I won't lie, maybe even Texas Tech. Yeah, I think they do have more NIL. I was mentioning that earlier. Apologize that this cushion's slipping off my chair here, but I think they do have more NIL. But what I mean is, does the school really have that much more money? And I think Texas probably does. But does the school have that much more money, or is it that they're willing to put that much more money into their NIL collectives? Is it the fact that Oakland didn't find it anywhere else, or is it the fact that they're not willing? Wow, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is storming out there, so that might cut down my my stream a little bit too. But anyways, man, that kind of scared me a little bit. All of a sudden, I just kind of felt a big rumble and started to hear it. Um, anyways, yeah, I don't know how much of that it goes into how much Oklahoma is able to spend in NIL or how much they are willing to spend in NIL. I think that's a big thing. Let's see here. Going over to Student Cowboys more time. He says OU seems to not even have have SMU, Wisconsin, etc. Illinois or NIL. Sorry, I saw ILN all mixed up and my dyslexia kicked in. And but anyways, yeah, it's again. I'm going to go back to that. I don't know how much that is of Oklahoma is not able to spend that much in NIL or how much they're willing to spend in NIL. So I think there's a difference there, and I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. But I do think part of that comes into how much they're willing to spend. Specifically, when I hear Nagy talk, that's what I think is that it's how much Oklahoma is willing to spend in NIL. Jimmy Satterfield, another resident here on the channel, says OU 23, Michigan 20. Pretty much flipping what Burks was saying too. I mean, I like that. A very, very good. I would say prediction wise, yeah. I mean, if I'm taking a prediction right now, I'm right around that same boat. It's the only reason why I feel like I lean Oklahoma to score more on offense is because we have so much confidence that this new offense should be better, right? And so I think when you take a look at what Oklahoma has done on offense to fix that offense and how you feel going into the season, I feel like Oklahoma feels more confident than what Michigan should feel in confidence. And I might be wrong. Michigan fans probably feel the same way about Michigan as I feel about Oklahoma in that regard. But I do feel like Oklahoma, if I were to take a prediction right now, and this is before fall practices have even started, so take that into consideration. I would say maybe Oklahoma 24, Michigan 17, something like that. I don't know if Michigan's going to score 20 on Oklahoma. That's the big thing for me. I don't know that they can score 20 on this defense. This defense is going to be good, guys, and I think that in many regards it could be better than last year in some facet. I think it's going to keep on improving. But anyways, Modern Day Caveman says the game will probably be decided on if Bryce Underwood can live up to the hype as a true freshman. I'm telling you guys, I'm having struggles reading tonight. Anyways, yeah, I think Bryce Underwood living up to the expectation, and like what Burks was saying, I think some of the talk that I've heard about Bryce Underwood is not necessarily him. It is that he doesn't have the receivers that some would hope that he would have around him at a school like Michigan. And you know what? Sometimes that's what happens when you pay that much money to get a guy in too, is that you can't pay the rest of the guys around him. So that's one thing. Jason says, "Good evening from Oklahoma City." Good evening to you, Jason. Appreciate you for tuning in. And let's see here. Chuck is another resident. I feel like I see his name quite often. Chuck says, "Come on, man, let's be real. Them Texas schools, most of them, the big ones, they do have more money than Oklahoma." Yes, I'm conceding that. And I'm not saying that they don't have more money than Oklahoma. So hopefully you're getting me right on that. They definitely, like Texas and Texas A&M. They have more NIL money than Oklahoma. Texas Tech, I'm not sure. They probably do. I mean, all of the Texas teams, right? They have that oil money, and I don't know how much Oklahoma can compete with that. But again, I think when you look at other teams, so I don't know what would be a good comparison. Oklahoma and I was about to say Oregon. That's not a good comparison either. Oklahoma and Ohio State. Uh, I've been around Ohio State. I don't know. Do they have that many more resources than Oklahoma? Again, I'm not saying that they don't have more to spend than Oklahoma. I'm just saying how much is Oklahoma willing to go and grab more money for NIL? Hopefully that makes sense. I just don't think that Oklahoma, and that might be a stubborn issue, and maybe that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I do think that in a lot of regards, that Oklahoma just refuses to pay the big time money that you're seeing with these other schools. And I'm bringing up some examples here. Maybe not the best, but some examples. This is before Nagy. You didn't have Texas money. Come on, the stuff is obvious. Texas always has more money. Yeah, I know that. And again, I'm kind of going on to that. And Chuck also says that it's one reason why Nagy has has to be real cautious about the money that he does spend because they don't have money like Texas, and they really not too hard to realize. Yeah, I know. And again, I'm not saying I've never said that Texas doesn't have as or that Oklahoma has just as much as Texas. I'm saying that in some regard, Oklahoma is unwilling to pay what Texas would pay, even if Oklahoma had the money that Texas and Texas A&M and Texas Tech what they're spending. And Jimmy Satterfield says OU needs to get some of that casino money right there with on that. Even if Oklahoma were to get that much, I don't think they'd be spending that much. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not that Oklahoma has just as much as anybody else, because there's obvious there's an obvious difference in how much Oklahoma is bringing in. And to be honest, right now, the reason why Oklahoma doesn't have as much right now is because what have they won here in recent years? They haven't won anything. They've been terrible here in the last 3 or 4 years. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that Oklahoma has all of this abundance of money. I'm not saying that Oklahoma has as much as Texas A&M. I'm just saying, yeah, they don't have as much money, but I don't know that that's the entirety of the reason why they don't spend as much in NIL. But anyways, I wanted to get into some injury update. This was given back on Tuesday from Parker Thune, and that's where I got it from. Parker Thune over with OU Insider. If you're not a subscriber over there, I will tell you to go over and subscribe over there because I also contribute to OU Insider. And so go over there and check that out. If you're a baseball fan, that is the best place to keep up. I've been keeping everybody up to date with all of the biggest baseball news. And so, yes, you see a lot of it being broken. I put it out there on X and social media and all that, but you see more of it, and you get a first glimpse. You get more of an idea. You also get more of a story over there. So, just a little bit of an enticement over there. But anyways, Parker Thune said that Grayson Halton was a guy that has some sort of tweak to his hamstring. That's one thing. It's always a concern anytime you're hearing any kind of injuries, especially after last season. So that was one that he mentioned. And also Eli Bowen was one that we saw in a boot, even in the spring. And it was kind of shaken off as they're being precautious and they kept him out. But now he's still not participating in summer workouts as well, which that's terrible to hear. And especially like I've mentioned in the past, I believe in the cornerback room. I think that the DBs are going to be just fine in terms of what's at top. I just don't know about the depth and specifically in the corners. And so Eli being out would be very, very harmful. Kendall Dolby seems like everything's going good there, so that's good news, and we'd like to hear that. And then Isaiah Audrey Dent had a little bit of a minor knee procedure, and I think that was back in May. And it seems like he kind of resumed everything. He's acting like everything should be good after all of that. And so a depth player that Oklahoma definitely wants to have. And then going over to Marcus Wimberly was another guy. So this is a freshman safety. Again, you want that DB room to be deep, but he does seem like he's got a dinged up shoulder, pretty routine and nothing too much big going on there. And so, anyways, that was another name that was thrown out on there. So, and then I know that I gave an update on Tuesday for Jaden Gibson is one that they're taking it slow. They're taking it easy. Everything seems to be going well. And so hopefully everything keeps on going well. That's the most for any kind of injury updates that I have that I'm able or willing to share here on the show today. Jumping back real quick over to the live chat. Again, you guys can feel free to call in on that number, 405-353-4535. Call in there if you want to call in on the show. But let's see here. Senior Cowboy says, here we go with the injuries. Face slap. Yes, I know, man. But here's the thing that you can take some solace in is that this is not an excuse anymore. Because if this happens again, where this same thing where you have a CVS receipt sitting there in front of you of just all of these guys on the injury list, then you know that there's something wrong with the regime with what they're doing, and so there's something there. Also, I see this. Jimmy Satterfield says I still can't log into my OU Insider account. Jimmy, if you have me on X, DM me. Let me see if I can help you out. You can DM me, and I'll try to help you out. So follow me over on X. It's at Real Josh Mahler if you've got an X account. Otherwise, I'm not sure how else to have you get a hold of me. But I will see if your name is Jimmy Satterfield on the website too. I might be able to help out there. Anyways, going back to Chuck, and I disagree right there. I think if they had the money, they would obviously spend it because when you win, it brings in more money. So you have to spend money. Yes, but they haven't won. So maybe we're just going to agree to disagree. I do think that the way that Oklahoma has operated in the past, and specifically around this NIL era, it doesn't seem like they're wanting to spend money. But anyways, maybe you're right. It's all speculation, really. Unless and even if you were to ask the program, it's not like they're going to say no, we wouldn't spend the money. They would probably tell you, yeah, well, we're spending as much as we can. But I get to you, they're not. They're not. They have come out in the past and said that they're not willing to bid as much as other schools. It's been there. Modern Day Caveman says, should Arbuckle start off being conservative with his play calling or go all out, see what this offense is capable of? I think he should go all out in some regard, but be conservative on how much you're putting out there for Michigan and other teams to see. So that's the hard thing about seeing Michigan in week 2 is that you're going to have to open up the playbook. So I do think you go all out and try to throw the ball, try to run the ball, try to make some explosive plays against Illinois State, and just test things out. Test out that screen game. Make sure that screen game is feeling good. Test out getting that ball down to your receivers and testing that connection. Test out the offensive line's blocking schemes, but don't run your entire playbook, if that makes sense. So yes, go all out, but don't open up your entire playbook. So don't show off everything you're capable of, but do try to see what you can do. Just because, and once you get a comfortable lead, then you go extremely conservative. Just win the game and go out. Because in all reality, you want to and you should beat Illinois State by 50 points. Does it really matter if you beat them by 40? Trust this defense. Be somewhat conservative. So yes. Anyways, Jimmy says no X account. Man, I will try to figure something out for you regardless. Jimmy, email me. Let me see real quick. I'm gonna have to pull it up. Email me at Sooner Spotlight Pod. I know you followed me over on Sooner Spotlight too. So Sooner Spotlight Pod at gmail.com. Email me what you and then email me with the email that you use over on OU Insider. So don't mean to do too much of this on the live show, but I will try to help you. I promise. Jesse, welcome to the show, man. He says, will O-line be better? Do you know? Yes, it can't be worse. I do feel 100% confident it will be better. I don't know how much better. It will be better, and here's the reason why. The injuries seem to have been taken seriously, and they're being very cautious going into fall practices. So the offensive line will be healthier. Therefore, it will be better. Not only that, but you've also added some big guys. Luke Baklenko. I'm drawing a blank on how to pronounce the other one's name, so I'm not going to say it just because I don't have the pronunciation in front of me. From let's see, Baklenko is from Stanford, and then so you've got Derek Simmons as well. You've got some transfers that came in that have experience and good experience and show it, and so they're going to help out. At the very least, it helps with the depth, and then on top of that, with those guys that played last year because of injuries, they're younger guys. So you've got Eddie Pierre-Louis didn't get as many snaps as I think a lot of people wished that he would have. You've got young guys like Michael Fasusi that and Ryan Foje that are going to probably, at the very least, give you some confidence in your depth And so if they have to go in, you feel confident about where they stand, even as true freshmen. You had guys like Logan Howland get meaningful snaps last season, and now he's going to be able to come over. So you've got a lot more depth than you had last season, and the injury bug has not affected them at this point the way that it did at this point last season. So and they're being very cautious. So we're optimistic, hoping, pushing forward, knock on wood, that the injuries will not hurt them the same way. But even if it does, you feel much more confident about the depth and where that depth is coming from. So it should be much better. And not only that, but from what I have heard from the spring practices, again, is that they are competitive with this defensive line the way that you didn't see last spring, which is a really good sign. So the fact that they're competitive with this defensive line, who is really good, then that's a really good sign. So being competitive with a great defensive line, that's what you want to hear. And you weren't hearing that last year. Last year you were hearing, man, this offensive line doesn't seem right. This offensive line is banged up. This offensive line is allowing too much pressure, and Jackson Arnold is showing some to be turnover prone, and there might even be some sort of quarterback competition here because of what Jackson Arnold is showing, and a lot of that leaning towards the offensive line. That's what you heard last season about this time. You're not hearing that this evening, or sorry, this point in the season. It's getting late this evening. And then I also was reading this. Caden says, how's it going this evening? It is going great. Like I said earlier, I was hearing some big storms going on outside, so I'm glad that my internet and power is still working just fine. Jimmy says the O-line should be much improved this season. Agreed with you there. And I have a lot of faith in Bill Bedenbaugh and what he's able to do. But anyways, that is all that we've got for you guys tonight. I want to tell you all that I appreciate you all for tuning in for however long you might have tuned in for. We will do more call-in shows in the future on every Thursday, and we will try to keep on going it this way. So I do see Caden. You said that you're on the phone line. I do apologize. We're cutting it off right now. We're already over that 1 hour 15 mark. But we will be getting back to the calls next Thursday. Caden, make sure to call in next Thursday for me. And you know what? If we keep on getting people calling in, then we'll do more of these. So the more that you guys support us, the more that we can do it. But anyways, call-in shows are on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to call in on Thursdays. We're also live here on this same channel on Mondays and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Mondays, the Sooner Smiths with Chad and Tierney Smith, and then Tuesdays with myself doing Oklahoma Sooners Live. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.